I'm making this announcement in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, Laws of the State of New Jersey. The Borough Clerk has prepared a schedule of the meetings of the governing body of the Borough of Kenilworth for the year 2021. The Borough Clerk has posted a true copy of this schedule on the bulletin board located at the front entrance of Borough Hall, and has mailed true copies of this schedule to the local source, the Star Ledger, and the Home News Tribune, and is maintaining a copy of this schedule in her office during the year 2021. During the public health emergency caused by the coronavirus, the Borough Council will continue to meet on their regularly scheduled meeting dates at 6 p.m. The council meeting will continue to commence as soon as possible after the work session. Accordingly, the notice requirements to the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied in regard to this meeting. Please stand for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Cesari?
Here.
Councilman David?
Here.
Councilman Finestrella?
Here.
Councilman Ladati?
Here.
Councilman Pence?
Here.
And Councilman Puglisi?
Here.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the work session and council meetings of May 12, 2021 and May 26, 2021?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
I'll second it, Ladati.
Okay. All in favor?
Well, I'll just abstain because I wasn't there, so.
Okay.
Communications were received from the New Jersey State League of Municipalities. The New Jersey Department of Transportation announced the Safe Routes to School grant. An invitation was received for the annual Walk for Wellness from the Mental Health Association of New Jersey, and a request for a block party on Passaic was received, as well as the department reports for May.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept communications and reports?
So move, Ladati.
Second, Pence.
All in favor? Okay. Kenilworth currently has a total of 1,159 COVID-19 cases that have been reported to the Health Department. 8 of these cases have fallen in the past 30 days, with 1 new infection in the past 7 days. I'm happy to report that 0 school-age children between the ages of 5 and 18 have tested positive in the past 14 days. I still urge unvaccinated people to continue to follow safety protocols to keep yourself and your family safe. This is a very promising outlook, and I certainly hope this trend continues. The farmers market is back on every Friday from 12:30 to 6:30, located at the United Methodist Church at 455 Boulevard. St. Teresa's Food Pantry has new hours, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to noon, Wednesday evenings from 6 to 7 p.m., and 9 to 10 a.m. on Saturday. It was brought to my attention that many residents were disappointed that the borough was not having fireworks this year. This decision was made several months ago at the height of the COVID spike this past winter. Because of this decision, the funds allocated for the annual fireworks were not put into our budget. Pending Board of Education approval, I am super excited to announce that the fireworks are back on. A big thank you to our Union County Commissioners, the Kenilworth Recreation, the Holzinger family, and the Louis DeMondo Civic Association for coming together as a community and for getting the funds needed to make all of this happen, saving the borough over $10,000. I believe I can speak for our entire community when I say we are extremely grateful. Without this financial support, the fireworks would not have been possible. The fireworks date is set for June 27th at 9 p.m., and we still need to determine a rain date. I'm also proud to announce another event this month. Please join our Police Chief Seuss, along with members of our police department, for our first ever waffle cone with a cop event on Tuesday, June 29th from 2 to 4 p.m. in the parking lot across from the municipal building. A special thank you to our Police Chief Seuss, the Kenilworth Police Department, the Louis DeMondo Civic Association for sponsoring this fun community event, the Union County Sheriff K-9, will also be in attendance as our special guests, and I hope to see everyone there. Thank you. Finance report, Councilman Ladati.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to go over senior tax freeze. There's a lot of misunderstandings about what it's about. The property tax relief program does not actually freeze your taxes, but reimburse you for any property tax increase you have once you're in the program. So the money still comes back into our coffers here in Kenilworth, but your refund is by the state. So you'll get a check from the state on the reimbursement. So it's a sort of, help me lower my taxes, and that's what they're doing there. Again, you will receive a difference between your base year, your first year in the program, and the tax bill that you'll get in the current year. The property tax, as long as the current year is higher than the base year, and you meet all eligibility requirements. Eligibility requirements are you and your spouse, union partner were 65 or older on December 31st, 2019, are receiving federal Social Security disability benefit payments on or before December 31st, 2019. Again, I'm going to have all these documents put on the website for clearance for yourself. And I want to have, when we open our senior center in September, if that's possible, and I hope it is, I'll ask Laura to have her finance people come over and maybe just explain this and one of the sheets. If not, maybe we could go outside and find someone that'll volunteer their time for this. But I think it's important for the seniors to have that. Again, if you look at the finances, and we're having trouble in our town, it's been a tough year. The Rowan Valley Storage Authority, even though our number went down, we still have a $73,000 number to hit. And, putting that included in our losses, and the increase in benefits for the police, we took quite a big hit. But it's also happening inside our town. Our people, a loaf of bread right now, $7. What do you do? So we need St. Teresa's Pantry to be taken care of. And let's try to help our people in town that really need it now. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Ladati. Department of Public Works, Councilman David.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I really have is DPW, they're continuing to fill the potholes throughout the borough. They've collected 105 yards of mixed vegetable waste. They continue to do that every Wednesday, and like I said at the last council meeting, residents just need to put their vegetative waste, grass, plastic containers, not plastic bags. Plastic bags will not be picked up, so don't use them. The only other couple things that I have is DPW Superintendent would like to congratulate Richard Loxley, the DPW Employee of the Month for May 2021. Richard has demonstrated genuine leadership and patience by providing operation safety sanitation truck training to two of the new hires. And he would also like to recognize two Department of Public Works employees on their service anniversary this month of June. Mr. Michael Kretschmer completes 13 years of service, and Mr. Richard Loxley completes 34 years of service. And the other thing is, as everyone knows, they're still doing some tree work. Budget has run out on that, so that's the constant problem that we have. So many residents that are complaining about trees, we'll try to get to them when we can. That's all I have in mind right now, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Councilman David. Department of Public Safety, Councilwoman Ciceri.
Thank you, Mayor. For the month of May, I received the chief's report, Chief Seuss's police report for the police department. For the month of May, there were 1,165 calls for service, 136 911 calls, total of 126 hours in overtime, and 64 hours of training, 171 traffic summonses issued for the month. On Tuesday, May 18th, approximately 4:30 p.m., a motor vehicle that was reported stolen out of Elizabeth took off on Officer Byron, it should be Bryson, westbound on the boulevard. The motor vehicle attempt was to elude Officer Bryson through several side streets and eventually crashed through a gate at the end of Wilshire Drive into Flexi Van, where the driver fled on foot. After an hour-long searching involving KPD, Cranford PD, Union PD, and Union County Sheriffs, the suspect was caught near Venetia Avenue in Cranford without incident. The suspect was charged with second-degree eluding, third-degree receiving stolen property, and fourth-degree resisting arrest. Chief Seuss extended his appreciation to the other agencies involved. On Sunday, June 6th, a driver of a pickup truck, this is probably what everybody remembers because that was like, I heard of that on Sunday right after it happened. June 6th, the driver of a pickup truck suffered a seizure and crashed into Access Self-Storage on North 26th Street. The driver was transported to the hospital where he was eventually released. The building suffered minor structural damages and was cleared for occupancy. This incident was erroneously reported online as a DWI or break into Access, but was in fact a motor vehicle accident that resulted from a medical condition. And that's about all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Tsiri. Planning and zoning, Councilman Fenestrella.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the report for construction in the month of May. The building fees were $6,596. Trust state fees were $415. Miscellaneous fees were $1,415, for a total of $8,426. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Fenestrella. Recreation and Fire, Councilman Pence.
Thank you, Mayor. Recreation report, the Summer Parks program will be held at the Marion Park from 9 to 12, Monday through Friday. Softball is almost done. Fire department report, there's 27 calls for service, 4 for mutual aid, and there were 48 calls for the rescue squad. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Pence. Health, Education, and Human Services, Councilman Puglisi.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing from the health department at this point in time. Thank you. But for the library, again, they're doing an animal job over there. Father's Day crafts. There will be one for children between the ages of 4 and 6, and one for the adults. They can both be picked up inside or curbside, however you choose. I brought at the last council meeting the actual craft, and it's going to come with a spice that Dad can put on and mix with his ground beef, apparently, when he's barbecuing this weekend. So, and that sounds like a great idea. And also, what they have is a Paper Pal program. And that's being held outside on Tuesday afternoons from 2 to 4, weather permitting. And I mentioned in previous weeks that they're having the 1,000 books before kindergarten. That's still an ongoing program. It's a way of parents introducing their children to the world of reading. And one thing they've added, which is a nice thing, is that cute ducks, I guess these little rubber duckies, are given as an incentive to children once they reach certain hurdles. So that's something they've added to the program. It's something that I didn't know of before. And again, kudos got to them for thinking of something like that. As all children, like human beings in general, goal-oriented. The Library Summer Reading Club, that's going to begin on June 28th, and that's going to kick off, there's going to be a kickoff event outdoors in the library parking lot at 11 a.m. And ending at 11:45 a.m. There's also going to be a Unique Creatures Visit to Kenilworth Library event, and that's for children between the ages of 4 and 12, and that gives children the opportunity to learn about and view various animals and teach us how to keep our environment clean and safe for these animals and for the safety and health of the animals. Kenilworth residents are urged to call the library to register for the event, and you can start registering for that on June 21st. Lastly, the Kenilworth Library, in collaboration with the Kenilworth Historical Society, will be hosting an author, Jacob Shad, on June 21st at 7 p.m. At the Kenilworth Senior Center. And he wrote this book. It has to do with Kenilworth. It's called Swedes and Deeds, The Ups and Downs of Uppsala College. It's going to be discussion regarding that book and about Kenilworth in general. And that was brought to the libraries and historical society's attention by town historian Walter Boatwright. Anyone interested in that event is encouraged to call the library to register. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Puglisi. Next for council consideration is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
I'll second it, Mayor.
Okay.
Susiri.
Resolutions 1 to 5 are listed on the consent agenda and will be enacted by one motion. All items will be recorded individually in full in the minutes. Councilwoman Cesari?
Yes.
Councilman David?
Yes.
Councilman Fenestrella?
Yes.
Councilman Ladati?
Yes.
Councilman Pence?
Yes.
And Councilman Puglisi?
Yes.
The next thing I have up this evening, I have 3 ordinances. They're all up for public hearing and adoption. The first one is 2021-06, an ordinance of the Borough of Kenilworth prohibiting the operation of any class of cannabis businesses within its geographical boundaries and amending the existing Chapter 120 Land Use, Article 30 Conditional Use.
Okay, the purpose of this ordinance is to amend Chapter 120 Land Use, Article 30 Conditional Use to include cannabis regulatory and enforcement assistance, whereby the borough is prohibiting the operation of a business selling marijuana, cannabis, hashish, and/or the paraphernalia that facilitates the use of the same. Is there a motion to open the floor for public discussion on this ordinance 2021-06 only?
So moved. Ladati.
Second, Susiri.
Does anyone have anything to say or comment on this ordinance and this ordinance only? Okay, seeing no one, is there a motion to close the floor for public discussion on this ordinance only?
So moved. Ladati.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2021-06 for adoption?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Be it hereby resolved that the ordinance 2021-06 entitled, an ordinance of the Borough of Kenilworth prohibiting the operation of any class of cannabis businesses within its geographical boundaries and amending existing Chapter 120 Land Use, Article 30 Conditional Use, was introduced and approved on first reading at the regular meeting of the Borough Council on April 28, 2021, and approved for final passage at the regular meeting of the Borough Council of June 9, 2021. After all persons interested were given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance, and be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in accordance with law. Councilwoman Cesari?
Yes.
Councilman David?
Yes.
Councilman Fenestrella?
Yes.
Councilman Ladati?
Yes.
Councilman Pence?
Yes.
And Councilman Puglisi?
Yes.
The next ordinance I have up is 2021-07, an ordinance adopting 25 North 26th Street redevelopment plan, March 2021, for the delineated redevelopment area consisting of Block 183, Lot 9, for the development of inclusionary affordable housing.
Okay, the purpose of this ordinance is to adopt the redevelopment plan for an area in need of redevelopment, non-condemnation for the 25 North 26th Street. The council has reviewed the redevelopment plan and determined that the plan is substantially consistent with the borough's master plan. With this introduction, the redevelopment plan will be forwarded to the planning board for review and recommendations prior to adoption. Before we open the floor to the public, planner Mr. Mistretta will provide a brief presentation on the proposed project.
Mayor, if you could pull the light.
Oh, sure. No, it's just move.
seat from there? Okay. And let's do it. Am I okay to go? Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Mistretta. I'm a professional planner. I work for Harbor Consultants in Cranford, New Jersey. My firm represents the Borough of Kenilworth as the Affordable Housing Planner, and I'm here tonight to give you a brief presentation of the ordinance that was just read into the record, and tonight is the public hearing for that ordinance. I've been asked to put together a little bit of a short PowerPoint to explain essentially why are we doing this project. There's a lot to it, so a lot of different components to it, so I tried to put it into a short PowerPoint. This PowerPoint will also be made available to the public, so you don't have to take notes or you're not missing anything, but I'm told it's going to be either uploaded on the website or there'll be full copies available to the public at the clerk's office, or we'll provide a link to it. So everything I'm presenting tonight is a public document, and it's for anybody in the borough. I'm starting with just why are we doing an affordable housing project, and what is the borough's constitutional obligations. And essentially what we're trying to do tonight is talk about affordable housing, redevelopment, and our redevelopment plan together. So there's three different, say, silos, if you will, that I'm going to touch upon very briefly. But essentially, the township of our borough has a Mount Laurel Doctrine obligation. It generally refers to moderate, low, and very low income housing. And I put that first slide up there just because there's a lot of misconceptions about what affordable housing is. Essentially, affordable housing is moderate income, low income, and very low income households, and requiring that they are included within this project. And every region, every county in New Jersey is broken down or is assigned one of the 6 regions that goes throughout New Jersey. I'm not expecting you to be able to read that slide. I just wanted to highlight that we're in Region 2. And the next slide, I'm just blowing it up a little bit more. This is our region. We're located in Union County in Region 2. And this slide gives you the numbers. You know, I'm just trying to put a face or a light, shine a light, if you will, on what is affordable housing. We're in Union County, we're in Region 2, and as you can see, these are the 2021 affordable housing regional income limits by household. It's issued by the Affordable Housing Professionals of New Jersey. It was recently issued, it just got cut up on the upper right-hand corner there, but you can see these are brand new numbers. They're issued April 27, 2021. So we're in Region 2. We have this moderate, low, and very low income obligation. And as you can see, the median income level in our region is $107,615. You use that number to do your calculation, as I showed you on the previous slide. Moderate is between 80% and 50%. Low income is less than 50%, greater than 30%, and then very low is 30% or less. So we take those and we apply it to our median household income. And I just highlight I like to start with the family of 4, only because it's in the middle of the chart. You can go up and down depending on how many people are in each one of these units. But as you can see, Union County's in Region 2. It's a very wealthy region. And a family of 4, moderate income, you can make $86,092 and still qualify to live in one of these units. That's pretty substantial. I mean, $86,092 for a moderate income unit, so that is what affordable housing is. Affordable housing is also a mixture of low and very low, and you can see the numbers there, 53 or 32, and it goes up and down depending on how many people are living in each one of the units. So the first thing I want to touch upon is, what are we talking about? This is what we're talking about. It's income limits by household size, and you can see where we are located. A very brief history. I'll just touch upon a couple of our obligations to the Mount Laurel Doctrine. Mount Laurel 1 was issued in 1975. Major case known as Mount Laurel 1. And then it was supplemented, Mount Laurel 2 in 1983. The major difference is between Mount Laurel 1 and Mount Laurel 2 is, you could argue we didn't have an obligation under Mount Laurel 1. That's kind of why I'm a little bit glossing over it. A lot of people would disagree with me, but I can make the argument that we did not have an obligation under Mount Laurel 1. But in 1983, we do, because what's the major difference in Mount Laurel 2 was, and it's in bold letters up here, is just like the Borough of Kenilworth is, even developed municipalities have a constitutional obligation. What does that mean? When you came out with Mount Laurel 1, it was primarily aimed at developing municipalities, such as Mount Laurel at that time. Municipalities that were substantially farm fields, underdeveloped, and had an awful lot of vacant land. That was recognized in Mount Laurel 2 in 1983, where the Supreme Court says, well, even if you're a developed municipality, you have an obligation. That's where the Borough of Kenilworth fits in. We are a developed municipality. If you go back to 1983 and you take a look at our borough, we're substantially built out. We don't have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres of undeveloped land, as you would find as you go out to the western portion, southern portion of New Jersey. And they put two major caveats in Mount Laurel 2. One is the builder's remedy, where it gives the incentive for the developer to come in with the project to get a higher density project built in the town, generally with the 20% set aside, if you do not comply voluntarily. I should underline those words in the top second sentence there. Municipalities unwilling to comply voluntarily, because this is all a voluntary process, and I should underscore that. So what if you don't comply voluntarily? Well, Mount Laurel 2 gave us the builder's remedy. That allows the developer to come in, go right to court. He does not have to come in this room, doesn't have to come to our borough. He goes right to court and he files what's called a builder's remedy lawsuit if you're not compliant. Now, what's the incentive for the township or for the borough? It's called a judgment of repose, which is the protection. That's the security. If you come up with a plan, you satisfy your obligation, you are protected for a period of first 6, but then they changed it to 10 years. So you're protected from those builder's remedy lawsuits. Then out of Mount Laurel 2 came the Fair Housing Act in 1985. Which, the implementation of that act essentially created COA, Council on Affordable Housing. Most of you have heard, read about it, and so forth. They came out with a set of rules in 1987, another set in 1994. They tried to come up with round 3 rules in 2004, and that's where the fun started, where they were denied and went back and forth between the appellate court, Supreme Court, legislature, and so forth, all the way through 2014. For a 10-year period, it was through this legal process, which was essentially an argument about the round 3 rules and regulations. Until finally, Mount Laurel 4, March 2015, the Supreme Court had enough. It said enough with it. They essentially abolished COA and said, you're not doing your job. You had 10 years to adopt the round 3 rules, and you didn't. So they said, and I'm summarizing a lot of issues here, but just to get through this, they essentially said, COA, you're out of business. You're not going to handle this anymore. We're going to give the power now over to the superior courts. The superior courts are going to manage this process, and they gave towns deadlines to prepare plans, file declaratory judgments, and so forth. And they also said round 3 rules are invalid, except for very few sections of round 3. And they said, go back and use round 2. Use the round 2 rules. And that's where we are today. And that's where we stand as a borough right now. We're under Mount Laurel 4. The Supreme Court issued this decision March of 2015. So we're 6 years into Mount Laurel 4 right now with this obligation. All right, so what does all this mean to our borough? What's our obligation? Our affordable housing obligation, we have a prior round obligation, which is 1987 to 1999 of 83 units. and we have what's called a gap period. Remember when I spoke about that 2004, 2015, where they validated the round 3 rules and it went back and forth and so forth? That's known as the gap period. There's more to it. I'm, again, just hitting the highlights here. And then there's this present obligation that we have in front of us, which brings us out to 2025. And that obligation is 271. So combined, our total obligation under the Mount Laurel 4 and previous Mount Laurel decisions, as issued by the Supreme Court in March of 2015, is 354 units. 354 affordable housing units. Doesn't mean you have to build 354 housing units. I'll get to that in a minute. But that is our constitutional obligation. That point, pretty much we can't argue. And why? It was at the bottom I said, it's derived through a fair share methodology that was approved by Judge Jacobson. They had a very significant trial in Mercer County known as the numbers trial, where all of the numbers experts, and there's only a few, throughout New Jersey came in and they testified and they evaluated the different ways that the numbers were calculated. That numbers trial and that decision issued by Judge Jacobson essentially established what the numbers are for New Jersey, for Union County, for our borough, and that's where these numbers come from. The question is, what do we do with this number of 354? It is our constitutional obligation, and we have to figure out a plan that satisfies that number. Kenilworth, our borough has already adopted ordinances, so we are not new to affordable housing. We have on our ordinances right now today, if you go read them, section 120-35.2, so you can actually start with section 120-35.1, and we have an overlay ordinance for affordable housing. And this is designed to capture affordable housing units as projects are getting developed. The problem is, since this ordinance has been enacted and in place, we don't have any affordable housing units. We haven't collected any via this overlay ordinance. That's a problem. Now, our obligation is 354. Remember I said developed municipality. We don't have all this vacant land. We're not one of these southern or western municipalities that we can just go and rezone hundreds of acres of farmland or woodland and so forth and allow for the construction of these units. So what happens in that case? It's called a vacant land analysis. We're a developed municipality, and you're allowed, if you are fully built out like we are, to come up with what's called a realistic development potential. And then you subtract that out of your total obligation. The number that's left is called your unmet need. In this case, it's 354 minus 31. We have this unmet need of 323. What does that mean? Realistic development potential refers to a portion of the affordable housing obligation that can realistically be addressed with inclusionary development. That's what we're here for tonight, this inclusionary development. So again, that portion of your RDP, that portion of your obligation can realistically be addressed with inclusionary development. Tonight, I'm presenting a redevelopment plan that is an inclusionary development. It has a mixture of market rate units and affordable housing units, and that's the definition of inclusionary development. So that satisfies, or that goes into, not satisfies, that goes into the RDP, the realistic development potential portion of this plan. And then we have these other units, this unmet need. I'll get to that in a minute. So how do we satisfy this 31? I'm going to present this redevelopment plan to you, and that redevelopment plan has 165 total units. It's on 3.79 plus or minus acres. Again, it's known as Block 183, Lot 9. It has 165 total units in the development. Now, out of those 165, 25 of them are affordable housing units. That's the inclusionary part of the project. Okay, so we have 140 that are market rate units, and 25 are affordable units. And think about those 25, when I showed you that slide that had the income levels, that's what it's designed to capture. And then there's certain regulations where you have to break it down under the UHAC rules, Uniform Housing Rules, so you get your proper credits, because you can't put them all to one side to moderate or all to one side to very low. There's a distribution agreement that you have to comply with. So we end up with 9 units that are low income, 12 that are moderate, and 4 that are very low. And by doing that, you get what's called bonus credits. Because we're doing this family rental project, the rules say we get 25% of our GDP. So we're not building units now, we're just getting extra credits. So that's what that 6 is, not a unit. So it's 25 plus 6 is 31. I hope that makes sense. But you get incentives to do rental units, and 25% of your RDP. So 25% in a perfect world of your obligation does not have to be built. It could be a rental bonus, or there's other bonuses that we could come up with. So we are not obligated to build your entire number. There's different incentives built into the laws that if you do this voluntarily and you meet these regulations, 25% can be reduced out of that number, and you can achieve that number through credits. How do we address these other numbers? This other number that we still have, this unmet need. One mechanism is that this court, fair share, and special master will ask us, require us, to put in what's called a mandatory set-aside ordinance. Remember, we're only capturing 31 credits. We have over 300 left. So this mandatory set-aside ordinance is designed to blanket the town and put in a provision that any project that creates 5 or more dwelling units will start to produce affordable housing units as they come on board. That will not be the only mechanism that we have to adopt in order to address our unmet need, but that's a start. That's at least one mechanism that we're going to have to put into place. And if I go back to that slide that shows what's already on the books with the borough tonight, we already have a mandatory set-aside ordinance. However, what the court and the special master are going to make you adopt is slightly different, but not very different as far as the idea that we have. So we have this affordable housing obligation. We have this inclusionary housing project. So why are we just rezoning the project and getting it over with? Why are we using redevelopment? As you can see, we just go to this slide. It details all the different steps. You've heard, I've been up here before. We've had, council has already adopted a resolution authorizing the planning board to do what's called a preliminary investigation report, a redevelopment study. The planning board has already heard that. That's why item number 1 is checked. The report was prepared by Mr. Kevin O'Brien, who's the planning board planner. He did the preliminary investigation report. There's a public notice. There was a hearing in front of the planning board. The planning board declared it an area in need of redevelopment. And then the governing body supported that designation of area in need of redevelopment. And then the governing body adopted a resolution authorizing the preparation of this redevelopment plan. The redevelopment plan was then introduced. I was here that evening, the last meeting. Then it went to the planning board. The planning board had a consistency review. The planning board agreed with the redevelopment plan and adopted its own resolution, 5/14/21, and then sent it back to the council tonight. So there's been this back and forth process, this 8-step process in this redevelopment process to first find that the property is an area in need of redevelopment, and then adopt a redevelopment plan via an ordinance. All 7 of those steps have been concluded in sequence, and what we're trying to do tonight is step 8, which is the final adoption of the redevelopment plan by an ordinance. Remember, it's already introduced, referred to the planning board. The planning board adopted a resolution in support of it, and now it's back in front of the governing body. and should it be approved tonight, then this redevelopment process, all 8 steps would close. Now, that only puts the zoning in place by an ordinance. The gentleman earlier was talking about whether or not there's going to be another public hearing. The answer is absolutely yes. This would only put the inclusionary housing project in order as a right by zoning when you adopt this redevelopment plan. The developer and his development team then has to then start the process with the planning board. We don't control that process, the developer does. We've done what our obligation is, which is to put the zoning in place. The next step is that the developer will file a site plan application. There will be a series of public hearings in front of the planning board, and it goes to its regular site plan application process. But that's separate from this redevelopment process that we're talking about tonight. Tonight concludes that 8-step process of the redevelopment. Redevelopment there's a lot of advantages to the township, to the borough, to have a redevelopment plan. Most of them, and I'll go through this series of slides that go through the project, and that'll help me explain it a lot better. But it also, it adds a tremendous amount of flexibility in the zoning. Traditional zoning under the MLUL is very rigid. You have to follow municipal land use law does not let you go outside the box too much. It's very rigid. You provide your permitted uses, your accessory uses, bulk standards, and so forth, but you really can't go too much further beyond that. The MLUL doesn't allow you to do that. Why we use redevelopment, and let me go through this process, and I think it'll explain itself as I go through it. The redevelopment plan that we're asking to have adopted tonight is 25 North 26th Street. Again, it's an inclusionary family rental development. The property, most people know it's block 183, lot 9. It's one piece of property, 3.79 plus or minus acres. It is currently undeveloped. It's very important to understand, it's already been declared an area in need of redevelopment by our planning board and supported by our council. The project that is proposed, these are conceptual. I don't want to just be very clear about this. These are conceptual renderings. They're all subject to refinement and to modification as we go through that site plan process in front of the planning board. But this is where we're starting off with. As you enter the site, the first floor, the ground level, this is grade, I should say, at the ground level. If I take this step back as you're coming into the site, that's that little green area. As you come in off of 26th Street, there's a large or longer driveway, entry, pickup, drop-off area. All of the gray is parking, proposed parking that's underneath the building. There's buffers on 2 of the sides, and then there's more parking on one of the other one of the other sides. Then there's the series of, this is a typical layout. Again, this is all conceptual at this point. It's going to be further refined, but this is a typical layout of the units. You see the different colors of the different sizes of the units. This is typical for 3, it says typical floor plan. Imagine 3 of these on top of the parking. So it's 3 over parking altogether. It's a 4-story building. This is a typical building elevation. Again, they're all subject to refinement. These are not etched in stone. That's part of the site plan process with the planning board. And just 2 more elevations. Again, 3 stories of units over parking. This slide is now on, if you can imagine, on the golf course or hovering above the golf course a little bit, and it's like a drone went up and took an aerial 3D image, and I'm looking back into the project from the golf course. It shows you the 3 levels of apartment units over that 1 level of parking. Inside, the entire courtyard is all an open space terrace, plaza area for the residents. The focal point has always been onto the golf course. These are the key components of the development. As I said before, there's 165 total units, and why this is important to me is those 25 affordable housing units. And that's the inclusionary component. So you have 140 that are market rate units, 25 of the units are regulated by those income levels that I showed on my second and third slide. It's a family rental, non-age restricted inclusionary development. Those 25 affordable housing units will be deed restricted for a period of 30 years. The redevelopment plan includes a veteran's preference for those who qualify to live in one of those 25 units. Now, with respect to the market rate units, there are no 3-bedroom market rate units. This is very important. There's 96 market rate 1-bedrooms, and there's 44 market rate 2-bedrooms. So the market rate units are predominantly 1-bedroom. There's 96 of them. There's only 44 market rate 2-bedrooms, and then the 25 go under that bedroom distribution that's required under UHAC. It's a 4-story, 50-foot tall building. The parking is going to be fully compliant with RSIS standards so that we can ensure that there's no on-street traffic concerns or conflicts with the trucks out on 26th Street, fully parked. And if you remember, we had that long driveway in, circular drop-off, and way out also to keep the queuing of the cars off of the street. Architectural design on all 4 sides of the buildings is going to be the same. So it's not like sometimes when you come up, you see the front of the building and it's beautiful, and then you go around and you see the side of the building or the rear of the building, and it's built with entirely different building materials, and it's generally ugly. We've agreed that all 4 sides of the building are going to look the same as if it was the front. And that's important because it's going to be a prominent building that's going to be above the landscape. Also, requirement of the redevelopment plan is the fire code. This project is being built to a higher level of fire code safety than what is required. Instead of NFPA 13R, the redevelopment plan requires NFPA 13, which is 1 level above what is required by code. Greater protection, ingress and egress for the residents who will be living there. The developer is fully responsible for a traffic study and any necessary on-site or off-site improvements. The developer is fully responsible for the environmental site remediation, any contamination, any soil removal, any capping under the site remediation program, fully responsible of the developer. So we're cleaning up an abandoned site, we're removing the environmental contaminants, and we're moving forward with this inclusionary housing project. Required affordable housing bedroom distribution. I keep talking about these 25 units. That's the inclusionary component under the rules that we must follow. I can't negotiate this. 5 of those are going to be 1-bedroom, 15 are going to be 2-bedroom, 5 are going to be 3-bedrooms. So it's a minimum of 20% of those can be have to be 3-bedroom, and a maximum of 20% can be 1-bedroom. That's where you get the bookends of 5 and 5. And then, how are these affordable housing units awarded? Again, we go back to that chart I had on my 3rd slide. We're in Region 2. We are not allowed to have a residency preference just for Kenilworth. So it's a regional preference. So if you qualify and you're within the region, it's a random process where you would get on a wait list if there is a wait list. But it's based on region, not just our borough. Other important components of this project, because we're taking a pretty large-scale residential project and inserting it into an otherwise industrial commercial area, we've included for those people that will be living here 8,000 square feet of interior amenities, a club room, a meeting room, a workout room. We haven't decided all that stuff yet. That's all done again at the planning board, but we've set aside 8,000 square feet, which is a pretty sizable amount for the use of the residents and their guests inside this building. And then outside the building, when I showed you that 3D model, that 3D model image, interior to the site, and I'll get back to in a second, there's almost, I think it's 28,000 and change, but it's almost 30,000 square feet of exterior amenities, of outdoor terraces, places where you can go outside, and you don't have to just stay inside your apartment. You have a place to go outside, socialize, and so forth on this site. We have 50-foot buffers on 3 sides, so we keep the building off of and away from our commercial and industrial neighbors. We've orientated the project towards Galloping Hill Golf Course, so most of the views are focusing on the golf course. As I said, we have this pick-up and drop-off circular driveway so we can get the cars off of 26th Street into the project, fully parked RSIS, and we don't have a disruption of the traffic. And I'm only touching on the highlights, just to be clear. There's a redevelopment plan. It's called 25 North 26th Street Redevelopment Plan, dated March 2021, signed by me. It's on file with our clerk. It's a very long document, but I encourage you to read it. It has a lot more details. I'm touching on highlights tonight just to get through this, but I hit all of the major ones. But there is a redevelopment plan, and it is on file with our clerk, so anybody's available, anybody wants to read it, please do. My last slide is just, if anybody's interested, everything that I'm talking about tonight, these are just a couple of the sources. It's the Uniform Housing Affordability Controls, the UHAC, and the second round COA regulations. If you're interested, I just want to give you a couple of sources where you can read up on all the facts that I provided tonight. And I will now answer any questions from anybody, and I'll end with the image that I showed earlier, which is a 3D image of the project. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
Sure.
Regarding the builder's remedy,
Yep.
if it went to that point, we're looking at 165 units here. That means that we could potentially be looking at a 200, 300, 400, 500.
Well, if you have 165 in front of you this evening in an exclusionary housing project, I can't speak for the developer because I'm supposed to be on this side. So you're asking me if there's a builder's remedy and I'm the developer now, would I go in and ask for 165? No. It would be a number higher than 165. It would be potentially a lot higher than 165. But I'm not supposed to make that argument. I'm supposed to be over here. I'm supporting the 165. But yes. Any other questions?
Does anyone from the governing body have any questions?
Actually,
Too quickly, or if you want me to go back to the slide?
I do have a question. Actually, it's, I hate to do this, Joe, but it's to you, Councilman Finestrella. Because in light of the advice of the planner with statewide experience in the area and our attorney with 45 years' experience who have both advised that this is necessary for the borough, what is the alternative? Knowing the danger the borough faces if we don't take action.
Question?
Yeah, what's the question? I just, what is,
Can you just ask the question again, please?
I'll ask the question again. In light of the advice of the planner with statewide experience in the area and our attorney with 45 years' experience who have both advised that this is necessary for the borough, what is our alternative?
Alternative is to lower the density.
Yeah, but if we don't do what we're supposed to do, we'll get sued. And it's worse than what's going to happen is if you put anything in, especially overlooking the golf course. So what would the alternative be? How would we address this?
That's fine, let them sue.
Why would you put this town into that kind of a position?
Listen, no one asked for us, nobody asked us.
Wait a second. I'm going to stop.
Then stop.
She was speaking to Councilman Fenestrella let's let him finish the,
See, he is on the planning board, and I'm a little confused. What is our alternative, Fred?
are you
Listen,
speaking to Fred
you know,
now?
this is, no one asked us for our opinion at any point in time. It has been a take it or leave it proposition from day one.
Well, that's not true. We,
No, absolutely. Name one time you asked, anyone asked us for our opinion on this. For
every
input.
meeting.
No, and every time,
And Allison,
is a
it's
take it
not
or
us.
leave.
Do you have a mouse in your pocket? There's no us. Just speak for yourself. Speak for
This-
yourself.
I'll speak from whoever I feel like speaking for, so number one.
You're
Number
not the
two,
minority leader here.
well,
You're not
well,
the
I'll
minority
speak from
leader.
whoever I want to speak for, and you like it or not like it,
For
okay?
yourself.
No one ever asked us for our opinion. It has always been a take it or leave it or shove it down our throat, all right? Matter of fact, I don't think anyone's asked us for our opinion yet.
As
So,
far as
it-
what? Opinion as far as what?
what our opinion is as to this project and how we improve it. Absolutely.
And then what happens if we don't approve it? Then where do we go from there?
Well, let's discuss it first, and then we can bring it to a vote. I suggest, we
Listen, this has been going on for years.
All right,
okay?
then you know what?
It's been going
Then-
on for years.
then
and
now you're
know
telling
that,
me
and
to
you were-
take it or leave it, all right? So then, I can pretty much tell you what's going to happen.
I'm not gonna, really?
All right,
Because you
absolutely.
really, I don't think you do now.
Well, yeah, I can tell you that, I can tell you how.
I'll tell you what, it's a
Yeah, that's pretty clear, so.
I really investigated into this. I really did my research on this. I took classes. I mean, come on, Fred, you should know.
I do know. Did you know? No one asked us. We had never had any input on any of this. It was
This came
165.
out a while ago, and you were on council when this was all introduced in the beginning. What do you mean?
Not that.
No, you just voted it down. That was the whole thing.
No, and no one, again, it was a take it or leave it proposition from the get-go. That's why. No one asked for us for our opinion on how would you change? What would you like to see changed?
It's been presented here at council. You could express your opinion right then and
Go
there.
ahead.
We don't have to, what, do we have to ask you for your opinion? Do we have to say, how do you feel? Because I think it's
Absolutely.
clear by
You know,
now.
no one ever said, like, listen, how would you guys want to change it? What would you want to see differently? It's been take it or leave it from the get-go.
Well,
And you know what?
this is just
I can say that
preliminary.
no one has even asked a question.
Really?
Not one question.
All you did was vote it down.
I don't have any questions, you know, because no one asked me for my input. It's been take it or leave it.
So if we
What
don't
do
ask
with
you
it?
your input, you won't give it? So it...
No, actually, excuse me, your input from the beginning, we know what it was, okay?
Oh, absolutely.
We know what you're trying to
Absolutely,
put out
absolutely.
there.
There shouldn't have been a resolution adopted last year saying, well, the governing body has come into a memorandum of understanding for 165 units. This should have been opened up to the public before we got here today.
It's
a
been
year
back
and a half
and
later.
forth into planning board,
It
back and
wasn't to the
forth.
public.
Everything was open to the public. It was advertised.
Then, you know, why don't, listen, if you're asking me for my input now, I'll give it to you now, all right? I think there's a lot of
You've had a
things.
lot of time to give your input in the past.
All right, so what? So take it or leave it. All right, so now we're back to that, then I'm, we're gonna leave it.
Okay, we'll leave it.
You know, I mean.
I don't care.
It's fine. We've been against it.
We're gonna
All
go
right. Yeah.
This has to be done, and you should know that. I mean, I don't know
Not this project.
if you, no, doesn't matter. Any project has to be done. We have to build no matter what. What, then somebody else, we're gonna wait for a while, and somebody else will come along and it'll be even more expensive? Even more? We're gonna wind up with a lawsuit. We're gonna get sued for not complying. We're the second town in Union County that has not complied, okay? We're bound to get sued if we do not comply. You got it? Really? Any advice on that, Counselor?
That's not my job, that's his job, okay? Number one. And number two, I say we go back to the drawing board. You ask us for our opinion, we feel we can make this project better. You know, there's a lot of ways I had plenty of suggestions.
I think our professional planner has done an amazing
Yes, I
job
do
on
too.
this project.
All right, so.
I'd like you to comment, Mr. Mastretta, on your experience and how beneficial all the amenities and things and the work that you did on this project.
I apologize, I probably should have mentioned in my testimony that what I'm showing you tonight is a culmination of a 4-year process of negotiations that I've been involved in. When this project first came in and I was first asked to get involved in it, it was 225 total units. Over a series, it didn't happen easily, but over a series of hearings, meetings, and negotiations and so forth, we went from 225 total units down to 165 total units. And on the flip side, that's why we use redevelopment, because I wanted that flexibility to require full RSIS parking, the amenities inside, outside of the project, wrapping the whole entire project with architectural detail and building materials of a very high level that I normally will not be able to get if you go under a standard zoning ordinance. So there's a lot of, and then I could go on and on, it's all built into the redevelopment plan about the off-track improvements and the traffic studies and so forth, but, so I just want to make it clear, and I apologize, I probably should have done that earlier. Tonight is the culmination of 40 years of working on this one site and bringing the project from 225 units down to 165.
As I said, I've been serving almost 6 years, and this has been always in the plan to come forward, because we have to comply with the Constitution. If not, then they could sue us for millions. Do you really want to get sued for that much, this town? You're going to cost your taxpayers a lot more money. So that's what I'm saying.
I disagree. Okay, I disagree. I don't think it'll get to that point. If it does, I welcome it, because I've read some of the articles that our council has forwarded to us, and one of them said when it went that far, the council member said it was money well spent. So sometimes we do have to draw a line in the sand.
Okay.
And sometimes you just have to stick for yourself.
I do understand what you're saying. I mean, but who's going to come up with a better deal than that? If you could get somebody to come up with a better deal than, from 365 to 165, go at it. But I don't think you're going to be able to do that.
All right.
I do have a question. Mr. Strzok. You say we have, how many, we're obligated to how many units? 25, you said, or 30, 31? And we have credit for 6?
There's 25 in this project. There's 25 affordable housing units intermixed in this project.
Okay. That's our obligation.
No.
Is that our final obligation?
No, our obligation is 354.
So this is only the first step, and
Absolutely, absolutely. This is the very first step. Our responsibility is to put together a plan that satisfies our entire obligation.
so this is going to keep on going.
Well, this will, and
You're
correct
going
me
to
if
go
I'm
from
wrong.
165 and you have that obligation. to
This will
25.
shield
Then it's
us
gonna go-
from a lawsuit.
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I understand the lawsuit.
And yes, it can be,
But
it's
we're
going
going to keep on,
This is
yeah,
not our only responsibility.
this is what the,
365 units, that's what our responsibility is. If you
no, that's what I want to
if you
ask.
look at Cranford, look at Roselle Park, look at all the development, Garwood, it's all happening all around us. Cranford got sued, lost millions. We're not going to follow the same suit. We've worked over the last couple of years to get the best thing that we can for this town with this development.
Now, who picked that area as a common?
Because the person that owns it wanted to have it developed.
The developer brought the property forward.
What happens if the developer comes in, he does his thing, go, look, this is costing me too much money for cleanup and everything else, I'm out. What happens after that?
Our responsibility is to adopt the redevelopment plan, put the zoning in place.
we filled our obligation.
That's,
Let's say they can't clean that area up, that's been in freaking tow yard for I don't know how many years.
again, our responsibility at the end of the day as a borough is to put the zoning in place to address our constitutional obligation. How we do that, it's a voluntary basis, as long as we cooperate.
Or what if somebody backs out?
And they back out.
And they back out.
That's it.
No, we're not involved in construction.
I understand.
We're going to put the zoning in place for that project. If that project doesn't get built, and if this developer doesn't want to build it, and a different developer comes along and picks it up and moves forward, that's fine. But just like an overlay zone, if we found another site there, our job is zoning. Our job is to put the zoning in place, not the construction component of it, if that makes sense. The developers can change.
So bottom line, we're in for how many units? 300 something units? For the whole town.
Howard,
The whole town.
and remember, that's a 38-year period. To be clear,
Now, did Cranford get a pilot program in there?
I wrote the redevelopment plan. I represented Cranford for a period of time. I did the Birchwood redevelopment plan. I wrote it. I testified to it. I no longer, to be very clear, represent Cranford, but I also represent Garwood, I'm their affordable housing planner, Scotch Plains, I'm their affordable housing planner, Berkeley Heights, I'm their affordable housing planner, Springfield, Roselle Park, I have 15 towns altogether that I represent, but I'm only trying to name the Union County towns. My work is predominantly in Union County. I can tell you, out of the 15 towns I represent, this is my hardest client because I don't have a plan, I don't have a project, I'm exposed. This has been going on since 1987. It's through, so we're talking about a 38-year period.
I've been reading about Mount Laurel for years.
Yeah, and we have been over decades, we have been supposed to be chipping away and pick up a couple units here, a few units here, a few units there. It hasn't hurt. So what that does is it creates a little bit of a problem for us because the number's not going away. It's a voluntary process. We have an opportunity to start that process and take a big step forward and get into good graces of fair share housing, the special master, and the court. Right now, we're not in great shape. This is one step. I don't want to kid anybody. You're right. This is only one project. There's a lot more work that has to be done. The one part that I would stress is that you want to maintain control of your destiny. You want to maintain control of your municipality, how it looks, zoning, densities, and so forth.
So this is just for council. You develop that area. Then you go to the Navy United Crane, you take that out, and then you just march up to what you can add.
You might march down the flexi band too. You might march anywhere. You might march on the Turtles property. Who knows? We don't know where.
National tool.
What we've done in other towns, and I've done it in all the towns that I just listed, we've put in what's called an overlay zone. It sits on top of your existing zoning and provides an incentive. Because every municipality in Union County has areas that, we're aging. A lot of our buildings are getting older now, they're outdated, they're becoming dilapidated, and we're trying to, take the energy that's allowed under the redevelopment law and combine it with our housing obligation and bring in new ratables, new buildings, and so forth, and address our obligation. And redevelopment allows you that flexibility to do it. There's only one thing I really want to stress is you want to maintain control of the process. At the end of the day, that's the only message I really want to say. You want to maintain control of where it goes, what it looks like, so you allow your town to further develop as governing body wishes. I think that's the biggest.
Mayor, if I can, could you raise that question? Control. I know my experiences, but I'm interested in, for this public hearing tonight, would you explain to the governing body and to the community, if we don't take steps, what the authority of the court could be specifically in terms of appointing a special master? And what does that mean for our borough if a special master is appointed?
Essentially, everything I went through tonight, there's a reason why I went through all those slides, is this is designed to be a voluntary process where the governing body works with its professionals and developers to a certain extent, because they're the ones that are going to be building the units, and come up with a plan that's best for your town. If not, there's what's called a special master assigned by a court. A special master is a planner, licensed planner, just like myself, but they work for the court. And they come in and they do the plan for you. Or let's just say that the best way to put it is they put a heavy hand on you and they guide you where you don't want to be guided sometimes. Then you also have the Fair Share Housing Center. At the end of the day, they're going to review and sign off on any settlement agreement. And you have a judge who's going to oversee this whole process. It's a voluntary process. I've done it almost all through the voluntary process where the governing bodies have worked together with the professionals to put this plan together. I've also unfortunately been on the other side where they didn't go through the voluntary process and we went through a trial. And it's It's a brutal experience. Basically, in this one particular case, they took the zoning away from the town. They put on what's called a scarce resource restraint, which prohibited any projects being built in the town except for affordable housing projects. Because what they basically say is, listen, you've had 30-plus years to come up with a plan. You have this big number. The number's big because we haven't chipped away at it. It should be, something about half of that by now, but we haven't chipped away over the years. So what they can do is what they've done to me in another town is say, all right, you can't have any commercial, you can't have any non-residential projects built until you start complying. And then somebody else, they come in and they help you with the zoning. When I say help, they basically write your zoning for you. And then there's a lot of different, powers that they start taking away from you if you're not compliant. Tonight, we're not compliant. What I'm trying to do is move that step, and it's not a big step, it's a little step, I get that. I'll get 31 credits out of this. But like I said before, we don't have to satisfy the whole 354. I can take, 89 units out of that through bonuses, so the number drops down, quickly. It's about voluntary compliance at the end of the day.
Mayor, just one other thing for the record, and I've asked this before, but I want to be clear about this. This is being recorded. As the borough attorney, I'm conveying I've had virtually no impact from the developer, and certainly not the attorneys for the developer. But what I'm asking you is, have they impacted at all in your decision-making?
In my decision-making?
Yeah, and in your recommendations?
No, actually, if you read, the proof is in the redevelopment plan, which everybody has a copy of, and again, it's on file with the clerk. It's already been introduced, it's been heard from the planning board. But it's the redevelopment plan, I prepared it, I signed it. If you read that plan, to answer your question, I put in, my office, all of the requirements and the protections for the borough, as far as off-site improvements, on-site improvements, design standards, parking standards, and so forth. And again, this started as a process of 225 units. I got it down to 165 units until where I felt comfortable with that this can support that type of project and yet still be viable. There is if I take on the other side, you can get to the point where if you drive down the density too much, it becomes what's called a non-viable project because you put too much into the project of your demands. We all want it to look really, really nice. We want the architecture. We want that outside courtyard. It's almost 30,000 square feet. Inside, we have 8,000 square feet of amenities, parking, on and on and on. We all want those goodies on this side. Well, if I drive down the density too much on the other side, you get out of balance, and all of a sudden the project becomes non-viable. The developer easily turn around and say, you drove me down too much, and you want me to put 25 units in there that are affordable and restricted for 30 years. The numbers don't work. And you fall into, you got to an area where you can drive it down to a certain point, but then the project has to be financially viable, or like you said before, it'll never get built, and then we go nowhere. So, I don't know if that helps.
One more quick thing.
Sure, please.
Don't know if you know or not. For the towns that have these properties, specifically Cranford, look at Cranford, taxes, net negative, net zero, net positive. As far as taxes go, was that an increase?
It was
an increase of input, or is it like a net
It was a
negative?
substantial increase in revenue for the municipalities I work for in Union County. Substantial. I wasn't prepared to go through the financial aspects tonight.
But even though they have a different mix, they have retail involved in it.
Even with the retail, we've done redevelopment, which allows for a pilot. The pilot brings in tremendous revenue to the municipalities that I work for, help offset the cost of bringing in these type of projects. It's substantially net increase on those projects, and I could probably put together in short order close to 20 projects off the top of my head that would back that up, and they're all pretty much under construction or have been constructed, or we could go take a look and see one of the different towns. Garwood has 2 different projects going up right now. Cranford's got their projects going up. Riverfront's up. A number of them in Berkeley Heights are up. Again, Scotch Plains, they're going up. So and they're all under pilots, and they're, the numbers speak for themselves. It's all public record, and they're net positive for those municipalities.
That's a question for Mr. Blum. Is there going to be a positive impact for the town if we go forward with this, with the building? I know we spoke about it before.
Oh, yeah.
Tax-wise, we're...
Currently, the 2020 taxes are $58,260. It's assessed on the vacant property. So if you put a building there, you're going to add improvements to that building. If you do a pilot, like that was mentioned, pilot is 95% for the municipality, 5% for the county. And most pilots, you still have the land tax on top of it that gets credited back. So the school will still get a portion of their money. They won't see a loss of anything, so, from what they're currently getting.
So the school is involved with the pilot, that's...
Well, if it,
They gotta be that way.
The land tax is still in there, it's credited back. So that's what I've been accustomed to from my experience, so.
Okay, so we should have a positive impact with the town.
Okay. I'd like a motion to open the floor for public discussion on this ordinance 2021-07 only.
Motion. Siri.
Second.
Okay. Does anyone from the public have anything to say on this ordinance and this ordinance only? Please come forward and state your name and address. Okay, seeing no one, if there are no discussion, is there a motion to close the floor for the public discussion on this ordinance only?
Second, please.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2021-07 for adoption?
I make a motion to accept.
And I second it. Siri.
Okay.
Be it hereby resolved that ordinance 2021-07 entitled an ordinance adopting 25 North 26th Street redevelopment plan dated March 2021 for the delineated redevelopment area consisting of Block 183, Lot 9 for the development of inclusionary affordable housing was introduced at first reading at the regular meeting of the Borough Council on April 28th of 2021 and approved for final passage at the regular meeting of the Borough Council on June 9, 2021. After all persons interested were given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance, be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in accordance with law. Councilwoman Cesari?
Yes.
Councilman David?
Yes.
Councilman Finestrella?
No.
Councilman Ladati?
Yes.
Councilman Pence?
No.
Councilman Puglisi?
No.
Mayor?
Yes.
Motion passes. The next ordinance I have up for public hearing and adoption is 2021-09, an ordinance of the Borough of Kenilworth, amending existing Chapter 91, fees and licenses, Article 2, police reports and services, Section 4, fees within the Borough of Kenilworth.
Okay, the purpose of this ordinance is to amend Chapter 91, police service fees, to include the fees pertaining to the Kenilworth Youth Police Academy.
You're glowing.
Okay, is there a motion to open the floor for public discussion on this ordinance 2021-06 only?
Motion, David.
Second, please.
Okay. Does anyone have anything to say, discuss on this ordinance and this ordinance only? Okay? Seeing no one, is there no discussion? Is there a motion to close the floor for public discussion on this ordinance only?
Second, please.
Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2021-09 for adoption?
Motion, David.
Second, please.
Be it hereby resolved that ordinance 2021-09, an ordinance of the Borough of Kenilworth amending existing Chapter 91 fees and licenses, Article 2, police reports and services, Section 4, fees, was introduced and approved on first reading at the regular meeting of the Borough Council on May 26, 2021, and approved for final passage at the regular meeting of the Borough Council of June 9, 2021. After all persons interested were given an opportunity to be heard concerning said ordinance, be it further resolved that the Borough Clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish said ordinance in accordance with law. Councilwoman Cesari?
Yes.
Councilman David?
Yes.
Councilman Finestrella?
Yes.
Councilman Ladati?
Yes.
Councilman Pence?
Yes.
And Councilman Puglisi?
Okay, I have a proclamation,
Sorry, Mayor. We discussed two things during the work session about making a motion, I think. Are we going to do that tonight, or are we going to do that at a different night?
tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, we have 3 items. Thank you, Councilman. The first item up is during the mayor's report, she did report that we do have an opportunity to move forward with the fireworks. Is there a motion to approve the fireworks display for 2021?
I'll second.
I'll make a motion.
One minute.
I'm against fireworks.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the second item up was during the engineer's report, he did note that a grant was received for ADA grant facilities for ADA accommodations for the automatic door openers. 2 quotes were received. It will be paid in full through the grant. We are recommending an award to ADS not to exceed $18,000. Is there a motion?
Motion made, Cicero.
Second, Pence.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next is we have asbestos remediation that needs to take place. Again, this is covered through a grant. The first grant for the ADA was in full, there's no match. This grant, there is a match. There's 3 quotes. The engineer is recommending award to Guardian Contracting in the amount of $3,800. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Those last 2 those last 2 motions, I will make a formal resolution for the next meeting just to memorialize them.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I have one proclamation this evening, PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder can occur after a person experiences trauma, including but not limited to the stress of combat, rape, sexual assault, child abuse, bombings, accidents, and natural disasters, and affects approximately 8 million adults in the United States annually. PTSD is associated with chemical changes in the body's hormonal system and automatic nervous system, and is characterized by symptoms including flashbacks, nightmares, insomnia, avoidance, hypervigilance, anxiety, and depression. The brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces who proudly serve the nation and risk their lives to protect our freedoms deserve the investment of every possible resource to ensure their lasting physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Combat-related PTSD stress among our men and women in the armed forces and among first responders is significantly pronounced, given that they are often exposed to highly traumatic events for weeks, months, and even years. Between 10 and 30% will develop PTSD within a year of leaving combat, while others may not develop symptoms until years later. Many cases of PTSD remain undiagnosed and untreated due to a lack of awareness of this condition and the persistent stigma associated with mental health conditions. Raising awareness of this condition is necessary to remove the stigma and to encourage those suffering to seek proper and timely treatment that may save their lives. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Linda Karlovich, on behalf of the Borough Council, do hereby proclaim June as designated as Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Month, to bring awareness to those with PTSD and to encourage people to reach out to their fellow citizens to provide support and remove the stigma associated with this disorder. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the Borough of Kenilworth to be affixed this 9th day of June, 2021. Okay, I'd like a motion to open the floor to the public.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Does anyone have anything to say for the good and well-being of Kenilworth? Please come forward and state your name and address. Okay, seeing no one, is there a motion to close the floor for public discussion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Does anyone else have anything to say for the good and welfare of the borough? Okay, if there's nothing else to be brought before the council, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Good night, everyone.
Mayor,